Welcome back to Close Up. The latest round of polls show former President Donald Trump continuing to dominate the Republican presidential primary. And here in New Hampshire, the top challenger, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, appears to be losing ground against Trump. The two GOP candidates went head-to-head last Tuesday with dueling events in Concord and Hollis. This matchup is a real contrast in styles. Of course, Trump is a singular figure in American history, blending politics and entertainment to an unprecedented degree. DeSantis, more traditional, but also more fiery than any of the GOP contenders Trump dispensed with 8 years ago. But the former president is using a familiar tactic, not just humor. He's also going after perceived strengths, attacking DeSantis on the governor's handling of the COVID-19 pandemic.
Some others, they did a very good job, but Ron was actually strongly closed. Remember, he closed the beaches, closed the highways. He didn't want anybody on those highways. Remember, those highways were closed. We want everybody locked in. He would make very threatening speeches, you know. I think he's a tough guy. And but then all of a sudden he's campaigning, I didn't close. And the media, the fake news goes with him. Well, you know, he kept it. He didn't do that. And he loved Fauci. You know, he loved Fauci at the beginning. He thought he was great. He says, I have statements about him with Fauci that are just like, frankly, devastating. He liked him a hell of a lot more than I did. The sanctimonious at 19%. He's heading. Question is, when will he go to third place? Somebody said, how come you only attack him? I said, because he's in second place. Well, why don't you attack others? Because they're not in second place. But soon, I don't think he'll be in second place, so I'll be attacking somebody else. You know, like we're intelligent people. Let's attack the one in second. We don't have to attack the one in third, Steve, right? Steve told me that. Don't attack third, fourth, fifth, or sixth. Worry about two. As they keep coming up to two, we keep sending them back to the dry cleaners, right?
Now, DeSantis isn't attacking Trump as directly as some of the other GOP candidates, but he is also not backing down. For him, this is a methodical campaign that looks like it's going to rely on consistent conservative messaging and a very robust organizing effort, getting out there on those doors. Take a look at how he answered this first question at his town hall event in Hollis, when a voter basically asked him how he can deliver on the promises that Trump could not fulfill.
Governor, in the last two elections, most of us in this room voted to drain the swamp twice. Talk to us specifically about why you're the right candidate to folks in New Hampshire to come behind in this primary to drain the swamp and get it done this time, as opposed to the other choice.
It's a great question. And what's your name?
Mark Johnson.
Okay, thanks, Mark. So the question is, and I remember these rallies in 2016. It was exciting. Drain the swamp. I also remember lock her up, right? And then 2 weeks after the election, don't forget about it. Forget I ever said that. No. One thing you'll get from me, if I tell you I'm going to do something, I'm not just saying that for an election. And there are promises I could make that may help me marginally politically that I don't know that I could necessarily follow through on, so I will not make that. And I think the idea of draining the swamp, in some respects, I think it misses it a little bit. Because we didn't drain it. It's worse today than it's ever been, by far. And that's a sad testament to the state affairs of our country. But even if you're successful at draining it, the next guy can just refill it. So I want to break the swamp. That's really what we need to do.
One thing to keep an eye on in this primary is that everyone who has taken on President Trump in the primary process, Republican-wise, to this point, they've gone up against him and they've gone down. Now, we see DeSantis in some of these polls, including the St. Anselm poll. He's gone up, he's gone down. DeSantis would have to be the first one to reverse that trend and take it back in the right direction for him. We'll see how this plays out. Obviously, we're going to be watching closely in the months ahead to see how these candidates match up.